have all the heroes gone? When the world needs a champion against the forces of darkness, who will answer the call? Warner Brothers Pictures.
Mystery Inc. reunites.
Scooby and his crew on an island of mystery.
Welcome to Spooky Island.
We're here to solve a mystery.
Rory.
The live-action Scooby-Doo movies are way better than you guys remember. This is going to be a part 1 to a 2-part movie commentary of both films, and I am so excited to make this video because these movies hold such a special place in my heart, especially the second movie. When I was growing up, I was obsessed with Scooby-Doo Monsters Unleashed, but it wasn't until I rewatched the first movie in college as a pothead that I gained a whole newfound appreciation for that film because there's so many like adult jokes, weed jokes, little nuances here and there that you're not gonna pick up as a kid when you watch it, but when you revisit it as an adult, oh my god, this movie ages like a fine wine, literally. Because a lot of times when you rewatch something that you loved as a kid, but then you rewatch it as an adult, you're like, oof, that doesn't hold up. This movie's not like that. It's the reverse. It gets better with time because I had no idea about all these little things in the movie until I rewatched it. So let's just jump straight into it. The movie starts off with Daphne being captured by the Luna Ghost and it's running away while the gang is setting up a trap to catch the Luna Ghost. What I love about this opening sequence so much is that it shows every character's quirks and qualities very well. Like you see Velma coming up with the plan to save Daphne because she's the genius one. Fred catches a reflection of himself because he's the cool leader, good-looking guy of the group, and then of course you got Shaggy and Scooby who are trying at all costs to not mess up the plan, but they end up messing up the plan, and somehow, like always, they miraculously find some way to still catch the Luna Ghost even though they're screwing up as they're doing it. And then we get the mystery mobile that bursts through the warehouse, and guess who comes out of the mystery mobile? Pamela Anderson. And when I watched this as an adult, I was like, what the am I watching? Pamela Anderson's in this movie? Like, obviously as a kid I could care less who Pamela Anderson is. Like, the star of the movie is Scoob. But as I'm rewatching it as an adult, high as hell, I'm just like, wait a minute. What strain did they give me? This can't be happening. Another thing that sticks with me from this opening sequence of the movie is the Luna Ghost. Dude, this guy terrified me when I was little. I don't know nowadays. I'm sure kids are exposed to way creepier things and they're laughing at me like that shit is not scary. But bro, when I was a kid, the Luna Ghost, especially when he lights up the match and the light exposes his face, oh my god, bro, that stuck with me. But Pamela Anderson is the reporter, so she's asking the gang what the hell just happened, and then Fred takes over as usual and he's like, well, with my genius plan, taking credit for Velma's plan, reveals that the Luna Ghost is actually the janitor of the place, and his motive was he wanted revenge after Pamela Anderson refused to go out with him. Dude, they literally portrayed the incel rage before incels became a thing, bro. This was in like 2002. That's crazy. They're like the Simpsons. They predicted the future. Anyways, he does the classic line, I would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for you meddling kids.
And you dumb dog.
And the gang walks outside and they get together for a little talk, and Shaggy brings up that everyone plays a very important part in this group. And this is when Velma surprisingly decides to quit the team because she's fed up of Fred always taking credit for her plans and she doesn't feel like she's recognized in the group. And then Daphne all of a sudden wants to quit, and then she's like, well, I don't want people to think that I copied off the smart girl. And Fred's like, whoa, wait a minute, I quit first. It's kind of like that energy where it's like you get fired from your job and it's like,
no, I didn't get fired, I quit.
That same vibe. And I love when they all walk away and you just see everybody's car that's fitted to them specifically. Like Daphne has a purple car, Fred has the red sports car because he's like the jock type character, Velma has the regular car, and then Shaggy and Scooby have the stoner van. Dude, it's hilarious. And if you don't think it's a stoner van, just take a look at the next scene. So we fast forward 2 years and guess who's on the beach? Shaggy and Scooby with their stoner van, smoke's coming out of it. You're like, oh my god, are they smoking? Are they insinuating that they're smoking weed in a kid's movie? But as soon as the camera goes inside the van, you see that the smoke is coming from their portable stove that they're cooking all their food on. It's little nuances like these that you're not gonna catch as a kid when you watched it, but as an adult, you're gonna be like, oh my god, they're stoners, literally. And then someone's knocking on their van violently as if it's the feds trying to get the drugs, and they're all trying to hide their food and stuff. And then when they open up the van, a bunch of smoke comes out. They have a bunch of food as if they had the munchies. They're on the beach. This is totally Cheech and Chong vibes, bro. It's Cheech and Chong vibes, man. Prove me wrong. So this random dude informs them that his client, Emil Mandavarius, wants to invite them to Spooky Island, to which they respond they don't go to any places with the word spooky, haunted, or hydrocolonic. I had no idea what this word meant, so I literally looked it up. Hydrocolonic means
A colonic cleanse, colonics, or colonic irrigation is a procedure that involves flushing the large intestine with water or other fluids to remove waste.
you do with that information what you will. So this random dude convinces them to come to Spooky Island because the resort has all you can eat. And of course, Shaggy and Scooby are like, we're in. So we then cut to the airport where we see Fred meet up with Velma, and this scene portrays Fred's persona perfectly because he's writing this book called The Faces of Me. Literally, as an egotistical, self-centered dude, he's writing a book called The Faces of Me as if he's such a layered individual. And then he asks Velma, what have you been up to? And she's like, oh, I'm just been like working at NASA, developing hydro-powered missile defense systems. The jokes are so on the nose, but for some reason they just work. Maybe that's the nostalgia playing in me, but man, I laugh so hard at these scenes. Then they run into Daphne, who's trying to put way too much luggage on the plane. Then Shaggy comes out of nowhere and Scooby right behind him, who's dressed as an old lady, and the music in the scene is perfect. Then we cut to the plane scene, which just might be the best scene in the entire movie, maybe in the franchise. It's hilarious. First, they're riding on Spooky Airlines, and then as soon as we get a shot of the inside of the plane, one, it's the best plane I've ever seen in my life, and two, it's filled with young drug addicts and potheads. It's so obvious. As soon as the scene starts, we get this punk rock dude with tattoos and nose piercing, definitely the drug addict, and look how many look how many dudes with long hair are in this shot. Let's just count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, bro. And then you got me right here, the Colorado pothead, trying to talk to the hot girl. I need to get on this airline. This is where I need to be. There's even a tiki bar on the plane. But there's even plants on this plane, bro. Like, look at all the plants. And then we get this gorgeous blonde girl that sits in the same row as Shaggy, so he tells Scooby to go away so he can flirt with her. And she talks about how she's a vegetarian and she loves Scooby snacks. And he's like, wait a minute, I love Scooby snacks. And then the next line, how do I even explain this to you guys? I was in college. I was high, probably drunk as well, a little bit, if I'm honest. Rewatching this as like a comfort movie when I get back from a party, I just need to pass out. I watch a comfort movie, so I watch Scooby Doo again. And she's just like, oh my god, really? I'm Mary Jane. And then Shaq is like, that's my favorite name.
I'm Mary Jane.
Like, that is my favorite name.
Really?
Yeah.
Bro, I laughed so hard in that scene. I never caught that as a kid. This movie was not made for kids. Let's just come out it right and say it. I know it's Scooby-Doo, it's marketed as a kid's movie, but like when you rewatch this movie, you're like, this shit's for like pothead teenagers, 100%. But then we cut to Scooby, who sits next to Fred and Velma, and apparently there's a cat right next to him, so he starts barking and acting all wild. So Fred comes up with the genius idea of flicking him on the nose, because that's how you apparently calm dogs down. And when he flicks Scooby on the nose, Scooby acts so dumbfounded, like, did he actually just do that? And then just straight decks him in the face. Anyways, they finally arrive on Spooky Island, where they meet the owner of the island, none other, Mr. Bean. Talk about a great cast. I mean, dude, this movie has Pamela Anderson, Mr. Bean, Freddie Prinze Jr. as Fred, Matthew Lillard as Shaggy, which is iconic, Sarah Michelle Gellar. I mean, all-star cast, man. This is amazing. So he proceeds to tell them that the reason why he brought them to this island is to solve this mystery of what's going on to the people leaving the island. He points to the people who just arrived on the island. They're all ready to party and have fun. And then he points to the people that are leaving the island, and they're all like well-behaved, sober college kids, which is not normal. It's funny that he describes them as well-behaved, sober college kids. That's not normal at all. But then sure enough, we see what he's talking about when this dude comes up to this girl, talks to her as if he knows her, and the girl's like, back off my grill, and throws him across. It's crazy. Anyway, since the gang is not officially back together, they all decide, I'm gonna figure it out on my own this time and take all the credit. So they all go their separate ways, and then we cut to Spookapalooza. We see Velma asking this random dude in costume some questions that he's just not responding at all. I love that scene. But then we get introduced to some new characters who are going to give us a little bit of backstory. And this guy's name is Nagu Tauna. Now it's spelled Tuana, but he pronounces as Tauna. I have no idea why. I looked this up. I was like, is the captioning wrong? But no, his name is definitely Nagu Tuana, but he pronounces Tauna. So he just switches the U and the A. I don't know why. And he introduces his sidekick wrestler, Zarkos from Telemundo. But that's not important. The important part of this scene is the exposition dump. So apparently this enchanted island is a thoroughfare to the supernatural realm. And for centuries, it was home to the creatures who lived on the island undisturbed. But then 10 years ago, Emil Mandavarius antagonized the ancient beings by building a theme park here, and that made the creatures very mad. So now they're plotting their revenge as everyone is partying on the island. And then we see the face of one of the creatures in the fire, and Nagu walks up and approaches Velma and asks her, do my friends scare you? And she does her classic move where she exposes everything, and she said the projector lights were here and there, so that's not actually real. Then we cut to a different scene where it's like a tiki bar setting, and the bartender gets a phone call for Mr. Doo, so he asks for Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Doo comes to get the phone, and the guy on the phone literally says,
I have a bag full of hamburgers. If you want it, come to the middle of the forest where it's dark and no one can see you.
And Scooby-Doo's just like, okay. It's such a funny scene. That's another moment that I laughed so hard at, dude. There's little moments like that that are just gold. For me, they're golden moments. Like such obvious stranger dangers, and usually it'll be like a case like I got drugs or I got cocaine in this bag, come and meet me. But here's just like just hamburgers. And he's like, yeah, that's good enough. And then we see Shaggy, who's still hanging out with the hot blonde girl. They're kind of like on this date, and they're playing that crane game, you know, where there's like a bunch of stuffed animals or like prizes, and the crane goes, but it never actually picks anything up. Well, he actually ends up picking something up. But what he says in this scene is extraordinarily funny, because he's like,
Fred tells me that this crane talent is useless. I should have learned French instead. And then he's like,
but I don't need to know French to know Voulez-vous coucher avec moi is a good song. Maybe as adults, you can kind of piece together what that means, but I do speak French fluently. My dad is French, and that translates to, do you want to sleep with me? And he's like, I don't need to know French to know that's a good song. It's so funny, bro. And then she responds, nobody's ever given me a stuffed dismembered head before. Aww. The dark humor in this movie is at an all-time high, and just wait for the next scene. It gets better. We see Daphne walking by herself on the beach, and then we go into this creepy house where this guy's straight up doing a voodoo ritual. He's like, I'm about to sacrifice, the dude's like, I'm about to sacrifice this chicken. Daphne's like, that chicken's not alive. And I love this dude's energy in this scene, because he's like, what are you doing all up in the voodoo ritual space, huh? What are you doing in the voodoo ritual space? But she's asking questions about the mystery, and he's telling her, you better go home before the evil befalls your skinny aerobicized booty. Dude, the dialogue in this movie is amazing as well. To have a black man tell a white girl that she has an aerobicized booty is hilarious. But then he's like, whatever you do, do not go into that spooky island castle, which I love this scene because it kind of plays on that horror trope of like people in horror movies are stupid and they always go where they're not supposed to go, obviously. So she does this like wordplay where she ends up telling herself that I'm gonna end up going there, and then he's like, what the hell? And in this scene, he says,
so you told me not to go up to the castle, so I would think that you wanted me to go, so I wouldn't go, just like you didn't want me to.
What in the world?
But if this was a rated R film, what he would have said was,
This bitch is crazy. This bitch is crazy.
Then we cut back to Scooby, who's in the middle of the forest in the dark, following signs that says hamburgers this way, and he actually comes across a bag with hamburgers. And this is when we get to see the monsters for the first time, and I'm gonna admit, not everything about this movie is perfect. There is one thing, and is a glaring flaw. Oh my god, the CGI does not hold up in this movie. The CGI is awful, especially with the creatures, because Scooby-Doo is CGI, but he still kind of holds up. He's not too bad. These monsters, oh my lord, they really bring the quality of the movie down a bunch because they just stick out like a sore thumb, for real. But Scooby ends up going up on the bamboo tree, which whacks one of them and flickers the other one off to like a roller coaster, so he kind of gets away scot-free. And he goes back to Shaggy all scared. He's like, there's monsters out there, but then we just see the bunny come out of the bushes. And I love this bunny's dance move. He's like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Anyways, Daphne comes into the scene and convinces Shaggy and Scooby to go with her to the spooky island castle. Anyways, they enter this super creepy castle which has like armor and masks and creepy things all around. But Fred comes out of nowhere and Daphne's like, no. I claim dibs on this, because like they're all separate. And then Fred's like, I found my own clues. And then you see this like scary figure coming up behind Daphne and it scares her. But apparently it's Velma, who apparently wanted to scare the patootie out of Daphne. I have never heard that word in my life. Patootie?
And I wanted to scare the patootie out of Daphne.
I wanted to scare the patootie out of Daphne, and the way she does it. Like, I even rewind the scene and I look at the captions to see what the word was. Even the captions don't have patootie in there. They don't even recognize the word. That's how much Velma is in the word. Anyways, they're all together in this place that obviously has clues, so they're like, all right, let's split up. Me and Daphne go together, and then Velma's like, well, of course he wants to go with Daphne. So then Fred is in this like predicament, like, oh my god, I guess I'll go with Velma. Daphne, go by yourself. And then he looks at Shaggy and Scooby. He's like, do whatever you guys do. And he goes like this, like it's some team, like, go team. So everyone goes their separate ways, and then we get another great comedic line from Fred himself, where he's like talking to Velma and telling her, I'm so sorry that I always pick you last and all of this. And then she's like, don't worry, I know you, Fred. You're all about swimsuit models. He's like, wait a minute, no, I'm not. I'm a man of substance. Dorky chicks like you turn me on too. It's so stupid, but it's so funny. I truly wonder if they could make this movie nowadays. There's so many like sexual jokes in this movie that like it's a kid's movie, bro. I saw this movie when I was like 5. Anyways, the camera zooms into one of the statues and you see the eyes moving, and apparently one of the henchmen of the bad guy is working behind this thing, and he turns on like the roller coaster ride that apparently is in this mansion, but you soon find out it's like a very deadly roller coaster ride. Like, Shaggy and Scooby get entangled by the food because it comes alive, and then you see Freddy and Velma trying to run away from these huge blades that are just swinging towards them, and Daphne got caught in one of the roller coaster things, so everyone's in trouble. And then Velma ends up throwing this book to Fred so he can cover the blade as it hits him, and then he breaks into this window and luckily turns off the entire thing, which saves everyone, especially Daphne, last second. So they end up investigating even further into the spooky castle while the henchman is hiding, and they find this whole like research facility thing where they watch this really uncanny video. Like, just listen to what this says.
Hey, sorry, bro.
No big whoop, dog. Yo, did you catch that new vid on the box?
True that. I'm up to snuff on all popular trends.
Word.
Bro, what the am I watching? And then Velma comes to the conclusion that it's a brainwashing facility cult. And then we see Daphne enter this like cult-like room with like an artifact in the middle, so she goes to examine it, and when she touches it, the thing opens up and there's like markings on it. And I want you to notice the music that's played in this scene, because for a kids movie, it is creepy as It's just unsettling and unnerving, and it's those strings that remind me of Insidious. You know, the violin in Insidious, bro? Like, this is shit that shouldn't be in a kid's movie. This is not a kid's movie. And of course, we go to Shaggy and Scooby are having like a burping and farting contest with each other, and then Daphne comes from behind as Shaggy is just letting it rip. So it just ends up being like a gross, awkward moment. And the mini henchman dude ends up pushing the alarm. So then all the security guards and workers of the evil guy come into the castle to see what the hell is going on, and they're looking for everyone, and everyone's hiding in suits of armor. So they end up getting out and they go back to the hotel, to which they run into Mr. Bean, to which he asks, like, did you guys find any clues? Do you have any leads? Like, what's going on? He's like, yeah, we got 3 suspects and you're one of them. The other one is Ngu Tauna, and the third one is the Voodoo guy that we saw earlier. So they all go their separate ways, and Velma's investigating the artifact, and this guy comes up and starts talking with Velma at the bar, and they're talking back and forth, and then she's like, you know, solving this mystery reminds me of the old days. And then we get a flashback of when they were younger in the mystery mobile, the whole gang, and then we get introduced to Scrappy, who's extremely annoying and obnoxious, and he even ends up peeing on Daphne. Anyways, Scrappy ends up giving them the ultimatum of like, you guys appoint me your unquestionable leader or I'm out of here. And so they end up kicking him out. I'm not a fan of this flashback for 2 reasons. One, I'm not a huge fan of Scrappy-Doo. He was never like super captivating to me. And then the second one, it just kind of feels forced in out of nowhere. So we'll get back to that later on in the movie. But the whole gang shows up there, and then Scooby sees one of the monsters outside the window, so he's spooked out, and Fred's like, let me take care of this. Like, there's no such thing as monsters. Everyone, I've been doing this for a long time. It's all fake. And then the monster comes out of nowhere and attacks Fred, and then picks him up and then sprays like this green fog around him that like passes him out. Another one attacks Velma, and she tries to pull off his mask, and just look at how bad the CGI is here. Anyways, long story short, they end up capturing Fred, Velma, and Mr. Bean. Everyone else kind of makes it out, and we cut to the monsters that are dragging the unconscious bodies to like some underground cave, and then we see the 4 people that got out hiding in like these tiki vases, and they're like, well, we need to find a plan to save them. And Shaggy's like, my plan was to get the hell out of here and let the monsters eat them. But obviously Daphne's like, no, we can't do that. They always solve the mystery, so this time it's our time to shine through and solve the mystery. So they come up with this plan to call the Coast Guard, and when they do, the guy who picks up the phone's like, no problem, we'll send someone out there to help you guys. And as soon as he hangs up the phone, he has this evil stare and then laughs demonically. I know there's a bunch of people that do the creepy laugh well, like at the end of Thriller, there's a great creepy laugh, but tell me I'm wrong when I tell you that this is one of the best creepy laughs ever, bro. This guy pulls it off fantastically. Then we see them waking up on the beach and none of the windows are broken. There's no damage in the hotel after all that chaos from the monsters. So they're all confused. And then they see these people playing on the beach. You see Sugar Ray, the band, playing at a pool party. And then Daphne goes up to the lead singer. And then she realizes by looking at his eyes that he has these green eyes that they're all possessed by like the demon monsters. And then we see Fred, who's like the biggest 99-cent store version of Eminem and Ken from Barbie mixed together. I mean, it's hilarious. And the way he talks is ridiculous, bro. Listen to the lines.
Yo, the biatch was like, what? And I was like, what up, dog? And, dog?
But then Shaggy and Scooby quickly realize that they're also possessed by the demon monsters, and then they start running for their lives. And then we have Daphne, who runs into the Telemundo wrestler Zarkos, and this is one of my favorite fight scenes ever, bro. It's so over the top and goofy, it works. But before we get to that, we see Shaggy and Scooby take shelter in some house and they find these like quad bikes in there, so they end up running away in the quad bikes and we get this fun sequence. And looking at these scenes makes me think it must have been so much fun to be on these sets, man. Spooky Island set of Scooby Doo? Bro, I would be drinking every day on set, bro. It's too much fun. But as they're escaping, they end up running into the hot blonde girl, so they pick her up. And then Scooby realizes she's also possessed by the demon monsters because he sees the green eyes when she hits herself against a branch. So when they stop, Scooby starts barking at her, acting wild, and then Shaggy's like, hey man, what the hell? And Scooby literally says, you're whipped. It's a kid's movie. So they both end up arguing back and forth until Scooby falls through into the underground cave, and then Shaggy's like, well, I gotta go save my best pal. And then the girl is like, no. And he's like, what? And he's like, I mean, don't go. It's so dangerous. But obviously Shaggy's got to save his best pal, so he dives head first. Not a smart idea. And he comes across this big bowl of spirits and souls of all the people from the island. So he starts searching for his friends and the gang members. And the first one he comes across is Velma. So her spirit goes flying back to her body, kicks out the monster from her body. And this is when we learn that they're like vampires where they can't be exposed to sunlight, otherwise they explode. Shaggy pulls out this random dude and he's like, please help me. And Shaggy's just like, sorry, I'm just looking for my friends. Throws him back in there. But aside from that, Daphne and Fred's souls get switched up into the opposite bodies. So in this scene, we see Daphne, but it's actually Fred's soul that's inside her body, and he's just like, I can look at myself naked. So all the gang members run into each other in the forest, and Shaggy comes with the artifact, which allows them to switch bodies again. But they kind of extend the joke a little bit too long, where they like switch bodies over and over again. I still think it's pretty funny if I'm being honest. But then we run into the voodoo guy once again, who tells them that they're gonna have their Darkopolis ritual. And in order for this Darkopolis ritual to work, they need to use all the souls from that bowl as energy, and they also need to absorb one pure soul, which guess who it is? Scooby Doo. And legend has it that once the ritual is performed, the creatures will rule on Earth for 10,000 years. So this is your classic evil villain that wants to take over the world and have ultimate power, right? And then we cut to Mr. Bean, who is that evil villain, and he's talking to Scooby Doo, who's been captured, telling him that we need a sacrifice. And Scooby, being as naive as he is, has no idea what he's talking about. He's like, a sacrifice? Okay. And then we cut back to the gang, who's discussing what the hell we're gonna do. And Shaggy's like, well, obviously I'm gonna go save my best pal. And Fred's like, man, our expertise is like people in Halloween costumes that are not real. These are real monsters. But Shaggy's like, I don't care. I don't know how I'm gonna do it, but he's my best pal. I'm going for it. And then we get some classic 2000s music as we see them setting up their master plan, which is to use the pulleys to tip over the bowl with the souls. And then Daphne's gonna open the air vents to let the souls escape and then release the disco skull, which is gonna reflect the light and kill all the monsters. But then as usual, Shaggy ruins the plan by attaching the cord to himself as Fred and Velma jump to tip over the bowl, but instead they yank Shaggy up into the thing, but somehow miraculously it ends up in their favor because Shaggy ends up knocking out one of the security guards as he stays hidden while Fred and Velma got caught in the ritual with all the brainwashed people, so they're just dancing like maniacs. And then we see Mr. Bean walking in with the most flamboyant Grand Wizard costume I've ever seen, and all the dancing comes to an abrupt stop and they all point towards Fred and Velma and they're still dancing, so the security guards come and they're like, oh, here we go. And then they come out with Scooby Doo, who's on this concrete bed being carried by people, and and Shaggy's right next to him telling him like, we need to get the hell out of here. And Scooby-Doo's like, no, dude, I'm a sacrifice. And he's like, that's not good. That's a bad thing. But as they're talking, they yank out Scooby-Doo's soul and then they commence the ritual, so all the souls are getting absorbed into Mr. Bean. But before Scooby-Doo can get absorbed, Shaggy jumps onto the crane, allowing Scooby-Doo's soul to escape and re-enter his body, and then everything goes mayhem. Fred and Velma go up to Mr. Bean, who's apparently not a human, he's a robot. They take off his mask, and guess who's behind the whole thing? Scrappy-Doo. I have to admit, I don't really like this twist towards the end. It doesn't really work for me because like I said, I'm not a fan of Scrappy-Doo. But then he proceeds to transform into this huge muscular monster, which to be fair, there is a Scooby-Doo episode or animated Scooby-Doo movie that portrays this where Scrappy-Doo becomes this hulking monster. But seeing it in the animated version was much more satisfying than in the live action, especially at that time where the CGI just wasn't quite there yet. But then we get a fun fight sequence, and this is when we go back to Daphne fighting Zarkos, which I hold to this day is one of the best fight scenes. Like I said, the totally unrealistic fight choreography in this scene is just a spectacle to watch. To see Daphne doing flying kicks and spinning moves and 3 twirls in the air before she knocks him down, it is entertainment at its finest. But the monstrous version of Scrappy-Doo ends up catching Scooby-Doo and is about to take his soul, but Daphne knocks Zarkos down the tube and it tips over the bowl, and this releases all the souls back into their original body. The disco skull comes out, exposes the light to the monster, making them all explode, and then Shaggy uses the artifact to deflate Scrappy-Doo back into his mini self. So everything goes back to normal. The people are dancing. Fred kisses Daphne, so they're all good. Then we see Shaggy actually find the real Mr. Bean, who's not a robot. He was actually trapped underneath the ground for this whole time. The guy that was flirting with Velma earlier is back to normal, so he's talking with her again. They're getting their relationship back together. And most important of all, the world could not go back to normal without this happening. Shaggy and Scooby are best pals once again. And just to put the cherry on the sundae, the hot blonde girl still wants to go out with Shaggy, so hey man, it's a stoner's dream. Potheads do not end up with girls like that, so that this movie is made for potheads, for us to be fantasizing when we're high. But before the movie ends, the police / law enforcement end up on the island and they ask Fred, how did you guys solve this mystery? And before he takes credit like he always does, he realizes that like, oh, maybe I should let Velma take the spotlight here. So he hands it off to Velma and makes her super happy. So they're all like in a good mood right now. We see Scrappy-Doo and all the bad guys get taken away by a helicopter. And then we cut back to a reporter who asked the gang, do you guys have any comments on the Mudbog Ghoul who's been terrorizing London? And Fred goes, whatever the case is, Mystery Inc. will be there, so they have been reunited officially. The team's back together. Let's go! And the camera pans up to the ocean and the movie officially ends. What a phenomenal film, bro. I love this movie. As I mentioned, the CGI definitely does not hold up. It's probably the worst aspect of this film, but if you can get past that, if you still have some nostalgia for this movie, oh my god, the jokes are amazing. The acting by everyone putting so much effort into this like Scooby-Doo kids movie. I just appreciate it a lot. I love Spooky Island. I think it has fantastic sets. It's colorful. It's a beach vibe. It's just everything that I love about this movie. The only thing I would add on to the CGI would be Scrappy-Doo. I was not a fan of Scrappy-Doo in this movie. I think he's kind of forced in. He's not really a primary part of the story, so I didn't like Scrappy-Doo. But aside from that, man, this movie is amazing. Please let me know down in the comments below. Do you guys like this movie? Am I on an island by myself here? Because I adore this film. I have a ton of nostalgia for it. Let me know down in the comments. Give this video a thumbs up and stay tuned for part 2 where I'm going to be going over Monsters Unleashed, which is just as good of a movie. You can hit on that subscribe button to stay aware when I drop that video or any other videos that I do. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you guys want to help me out further, the Patreon is down below. Check it out. There's tiers as low as $2, $5. You get extra movie reviews, movie watch-alongs, movie reactions, even when I play video games and stuff. All the extra stuff will be on there. It truly helps me out and I appreciate it. And as always, I will catch you guys on the next one. Peace.